What does year one of UCLA in the Big Ten look like? I'm going to break down some film on both the offensive and defensive side of the ball of what UCLA might try and run this season. One thing that's pretty consistent within Mick Cronin's offense at UCLA is the use of pick and roll. Last year they were in the 95th percentile in terms of time usage for pick and roll, so they ran it a lot is basically what that means. An example right here is going to be from Dylan Andrews, and so he's going to have the ball up top. Shot clock's going to start winding down, and then this is where you're going to see a pick and roll. Now, one thing that I think UCLA does pretty well is incorporate other guys into it. So this is going to be a Spain pick and roll with Stefanovic setting this back screen on the screener right here. Now, he's actually just going to kind of slip it, but that's the general concept is you set this back screen, try to cause some confusion. As Andrews goes off the pick and roll here, he does a good job of kind of sizing up the defender. And then just from there, that little hesitation, he's going to freeze this defender for half a step, get downhill, get to a little floater where he took a lot of shots. Another guy is Sebastian Mack, who was more of a combo guard last season for UCLA. Another guy that runs a lot of pick and rolls. Andrews can play a bit more off ball if needed, but an example here and what Andrews brings even as a freshman, and now he's going to be going into his sophomore season, but a lot of what he brought last year. So UCLA is going to set up this kind of empty-sided pick and roll. Nobody in this strong side corner, so no help can happen. Once Ohio State's kind of icing this, and so they're forcing baseline. And once Mac sees this, he's just going to rip and go baseline. So he's going to refuse the screen. And what Mac is so good at is really just driving and creating some rim pressure. He was really one of the only guys on the entire UCLA team last season that could consistently get downhill, consistently get all the way to the rim. And that's what he's going to sort of do here too. A little bit more of a floater. He gets just in the paint a lot, as he does a good job right here on this drive of being physical. I mean, you see that little bump right there, creating the separation, and now getting to a little bit of a floater. And another guy, an incoming transfer, Sky Clark. He's kind of similar to Mac in terms of being a combo guard, can run pick and rolls a lot. Can also play off ball, and that's going to be the biggest question is how these guards kind of fit together on and off ball. But UCLA has three legit kind of guards plus incoming freshman Trent Perry that all have shown that they can run pick and roll at a pretty high level. Clark's he's going to have the ball right here, kind of hidden behind the screener in transition, and his is simple. Oftentimes he's just going to be kind of a 1-2 dribble pull up. He fits into what UCLA wants to do with getting to a lot of these shots or just being able to create and go up with a lot of these shots. He also can kind of get downhill a bit, but I think when he gets downhill is when he'll facilitate a bit more. But right there can get to the pull-up. Another guy going to be in the guard rotation that can just run pick and roll and go get a bucket. Now there's also definitely creation for others out of pick and roll highlighted by Andrews, and that's who we'll go through right here. Sky Clark and Mac both can also create for others, but definitely Andrews is the truest point guard of that trio. Trent Perry, if he does end up getting minutes, he's more of a true point guard as well. So you're going to see high pick and roll eventually is going to be coming right here. They start with a little bit of a handoff from Mara. Mara's going to flip the screen and roll back. And I think this also doubles as a big thing that Mara needs to improve on is his ability to roll. And more importantly than that is kind of finish at the rim. So here, Andrews does a good job of just knowing that the defender's a half step out of spot and Mara has just really the size advantage being 7'3", knowing that he can just throw it up near the rim and let him go get it. Mara just has to be able to consistently kind of be able to roll, catch, and really just finish at the rim. It's as simple as that. Now, UCLA doesn't take a ton of threes. That's just not kind of their offensive philosophy or hasn't been under Cronin, but they obviously still do have a couple guys, especially like Lazar Stefanovic, who can knock them down. And sometimes his shots are going to come out of pick and roll too, so this is going to be Andrews up top. He's going to get a ball screen, go sideline because his defense is forcing him sideline. And he's going to snake this, so bring it back towards the middle. And that's going to draw in this nail help right here from Oregon State. And so now, as that kind of happens, there's a really good back cut here, which is going to free up this side. And what Stefanovic is very good at, I mean, you can see him pointing, right? He's pointing over here, hey, I'm going to go here, find the opening spot, because if you are a shooter and you are on a team that has guards that run a lot of pick and roll, you have to be able to, even if you aren't really a movement shooter, you do have to be able to kind of slide into the openings and allow your guard to get you a pass. That's what he does here. And then Stefanovic is able to fire and knock it down. Another pretty common staple in UCLA's offense is that if they have guys that can post up, they are going to post up a lot. Now, Jaime Jaquez has, even Adem Bona last year, he posted up a lot. And there's a lot of different styles that they can do it with. I think incoming transfer Tyler Bilodeau is a perfect fit for the UCLA offense. He was crazy efficient in the mid-range, could shoot the three, be the four-man. And so we're going to look at a possession here is he can also post up, and that's where he took the most of his shots, was in the post, even though he could spot up just as easily as well. And so he's going to catch it here, and he's a guy that's a lot of footwork and a lot of face-up game, and just I'm going to kind of beat you with some speed, and then also have good skill and touch to finish it off. And so right there, we'll rewind. A little bit of a pump fake, get the big to bite just enough. Okay, now I'm going to dribble through you, get to a quick floater. His isn't always just back down. It is a lot of one dribble pull-up type stuff like that. Another guy that's probably going to see a bigger role this year, especially in the post, and UCLA is going to need it, is Adai Mara, number 15 right here, 7'3", struggled to really find his footing as a freshman last season, and I kind of already mentioned him, and he just has to be able to finish better around the rim. If he can do that, he has good kind of defensive upside that he's going to find a lot of minutes. It's just got to be kind of physically able to finish around the rim, and some of that's going to become from post-ups. So you can see him here trying to kind of seal down low. Eventually they are going to get to this high-low look, and even if Mara isn't necessarily a guy that's going to be crazy physical and just bury guys at the rim, he has upside with kind of this touch and a little bit of a finesse game. Again, he was a freshman. There's so many times you see freshmen struggle with especially like these kind of finesse type shots. Sophomore year, it looks a lot better, and UCLA is going to need that a lot from him this year. UCLA's has oftentimes just kind of has these like jumbo forward guard type players that can really just kind of do a bit of everything. Jaime Jaquez is the prime example of he could post up, he could run pick and rolls, he could spot up. And although I don't think UCLA necessarily has a guy exactly like him, and nobody should have those expectations for these players, there are a couple guys that just have similar enough skill sets that I think are going to fit really, really well into what UCLA is going to do. One of them being Eric Daly, the transfer from Oklahoma State. He was at times really played as like this small ball 5, whereas at UCLA he'll be played more as like a true 4 that can stretch out and then also has really good athleticism. And you're gonna see, so it's gonna be him right here stepping out on the perimeter. He's a guy that can space, and then he can either catch and shoot this, or he can do something like he's about to do right here, and that is just, I mean, do that. What else are you supposed to say about that? I'm gonna go back to Bilodeau right now because I just think, especially what he can do offensively, just fits in so well with UCLA. UCLA was in the 96th percentile in terms of amount of shots taken from the mid-range. They took a lot, Bilodeau takes a lot, and he was arguably the best like mid-range shooter in the entire country last season. It just, I really, really believe in this pairing. So you're going to see him here. This is a horn set from Oregon State. He's going to be the one screening, and then he's going to sort of pop. But once he recognizes, hey, I have the switch with a littler guy on me, you can tell him, hey, get out of the way. Let me just kind of go to work. And again, this is where Bilodeau is like, he's not always going to be catching on the block and posting up there. He can post from the high post. He can even sort of post from out here and face up, or he can just kind of do what he does here. So he's going to catch a little bit of a face up, and you can see right in that mid-range area, very, very comfortable. I'm just going to rise up over the smaller defender and knock it down. Now, another guy that I haven't mentioned at all is incoming transfer from USC, Kobe Johnson, and he's a guy that can do a bit of everything. He can facilitate, he can score. Wasn't the most efficient, but it's going to be interesting to see what his role is offensively. He's an elite defender, so I expect him to get a lot of minutes. Offensively, can do a bit of everything. The efficiency maybe isn't quite there shooting the ball, but he can attack closeouts, he can get to the rim, he can still shoot. So what is his kind of role exactly for UCLA this season? Here, you're going to see him catch, so he's just going to catch it out on the wing, and he has this area right over here just to work with. And so now this is where he can get to the drive, and he's comfortable getting to a pull-up, kind of like what UCLA wants to do. He can get to the step back. If the shot starts falling more consistently, he's going to be impossible to take off the floor. Moving to the defensive side of the ball, UCLA struggled compared to their standards a bit last season, although they were still solid enough overall. One thing they do consistently every year, they do not allow shot attempts at the rim. Last year, they were in the top 1 percentile in terms of limiting the amount of shots at the rim. We're going to look at a couple examples of kind of how and why they do that. So notice Maryland is going to be running this pin down for Jameer Young right here. And just look where UCLA kind of is. Now, Maryland is a team that doesn't always have the best spacing, but this is still early-ish in the season where they had enough respected shooters. But just you're going to see. So right here, guard's able to get through and still contest with Young. And then you have two other defenders inside of the paints. And then you have another guy that's willing to drop down and help down there. And so now as Young comes off, okay, there's nothing that can happen. Going to go to a post-up. UCLA will double a lot with a guard from the top. And so now as it happens, kicks out. And this is just what they want. So they're going to run him off the three-point line a bit. But look right here. Young has absolutely really nowhere to go. There's his defender, there's a true rim protector, there's another guy willing to step over the rim, and two guys with, one step outside of the paint. Just nowhere for him to go. And so they're going to take a tough pull-up. Now Young's really good. He knocks it down, and UCLA does get burned a bit on the pull-ups, but that's kind of what they're going to give up. Now, when I say they kind of get burned on pull-ups, I mean they were in the bottom third percentile in terms of defending pull-ups, so they get burned defending pull-ups. We're going to look at another example here, though. But pull-ups are the toughest shot in the game, and generally speaking, they're shots you want to give up. So one thing I think that also kind of allows it is UCLA guards can just be really, really physical. They have the ability to really just kind of pressure out on the perimeter. This is Andrews right here. And so sometimes that leads to even to turnovers themselves. But again, now nothing really. There's going to be a drive here from Colorado. You're going to see the dig in that turns really more into a gamble for a steal. And now as he's out of position, you're going to see Stefanovic. He's going to rotate over, close out hard, and just force the guy to put the ball on the ground. So now as he's in the ground again, multiple guys in the paint for UCLA's defense, and he's opted to go to a pull-up. Knocks it down, but again, I think the process is good overall for UCLA. Another staple in UCLA's defense is just forcing teams to take a lot of time and not be able to get kind of quick looks. They really, really want to slow the game down, and that goes for both ends of the ball. They're one of the slowest paced teams in the entire country. So you're going to see here 21 seconds on the shot clock, and now Arizona State's starting to get into their action. Ball's staying out on the perimeter, nothing really happening. Guards are able to be aggressive, kind of force up because there's going to be that backside help at the rim. So, okay, now that's overplayed. And look, now as this comes off, Andrews does a great job of just getting through and staying in front. 12 seconds left on the shot clock, and nothing has really happened. The ball really hasn't gone inside the three-point line at all. Another pick and roll. And so UCLA is able to switch this one, stay in front, and this is just what they want to do. Grind possessions down. They close out really well. They rotate well. And so right here, it takes the full shot clock, and they have to force up a heave. Now, defensively against the pick and roll, UCLA would run both drop and hedge. We're going to go through a couple examples here. And so on this one, we're going to just be looking at kind of the hedge that UCLA was able to run. Now, depending on what personnel they want to use is going to be that's going to be whether they hedge or not. Mara can some, I think, but I think he's more of a drop big. But what I mean by hedge, so as this pick and roll happens, you're going to see right here, the big is going to be pushing out onto the perimeter. He's going to leave. If his guy rolls, then it's going to be other guys' responsibilities on the backside to help there. And so now they just want to force the ball out onto the perimeter. And from there, they're fine just playing one-on-one and allowing to get deflections. But the key thing, one example is just this hedge right here of what UCLA is wanting to do depending on their personnel. And then on this one, we'll look at the drop coverage that I just talked about previously. So the hedge, remember, big is stepping out onto the perimeter. They just want to try to force turnovers. Again, keep things away from the rim. They'll rotate back. Drop coverage is going to keep guys away from the rim. And Mara at 7'3", I think he can hedge if needed, but drop just seems more suitable. And so the drop coverage is going to be where he's here, and as the screen happens, he's going to be moving back, keeping the ball handler and the roller in front of him, and that's his job. And his job is just really to protect the rim, and that's exactly what he's going to do right here. At 7'3", still has mobility upside. He should be pretty much a shot blocking monster by the end of the season. If you enjoyed, please like and subscribe, and click here for even more UCLA preview content.